I got this feeling like it's starting now, starting now. I feel adventurous with you, and there is nothing that can hold us back, hold us back. We can do what we want to do.
Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Emily if you are new, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 2 trash to treasure finds. I am so excited about this one. I found this table for $25 at the thrift store. It had a little bit of damage, but I knew it was something that I could fix. So I propped it up on a couple pieces of wood, got my Bosch sander, 80 grit sandpaper, 220 grit sandpaper. I just got started by sanding down the surface. It had a light coat of probably polyacrylic or something on it, so I wanted to remove that so that way I would be able to stain it. For the majority of the table, including the legs, I used my orbited sander, and then the spots that were a little bit smaller I couldn't quite get into with it, I just put a foam block with some sandpaper on it and did it by hand. Now I'm going in with my 220 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to go ahead and do this to the top of the table as well as the legs all over again. Then I went in with my leaf blower just to blow off as much of the sand dust as I could before I go in with my tacky cloth. Next, I went in with the wood glue here, and I just filled in that big crack that was down the side of the table. I knew it was something I could fix, and wood glue is a great way to fix any cracks you might have and everything. I wiped off the excess here on the top and the side, making sure I didn't have any extra, and then I took my 2-inch clamps here and applied those to the top and also down near the bottom of the crack. That way it would dry and have enough pressure to secure that piece of wood back together. And I left that for a good day so it could dry. Once that had dried, then I just went in with some sandpaper to remove any excess wood glue on there. That way it would not impede my stain. Now that I'm completely done sanding, I'm going to go in with my tacky cloth. You can pick this up for just a few dollars at the hardware store. I like to trim mine down. I don't like to use the whole piece. And then you can just save it. It's pretty sticky, so you're just going to rub that all over the surface of your sanded material, and then you'll notice how much dust comes off on it. So this is definitely a step that you do not want to miss. Now with some woods and stains, you would use a pre-stain on it. I decided to try a new product here, which was actually by Sherwin-Williams. I had them mix me a stain to match my cabinets in my house. And I have mixed feelings about this stain. It's more of like a paint. I couldn't tell you what it's called because they covered up the name of it on the can, and so I don't particularly think I will be using this again because they say to leave it on for a few minutes and then you rub off the excess. And even after doing that, the stain kept coming off on my hands, and when I use normal stain like Minwax or Varathane, I haven't had that problem before. So this was something that I definitely experimented with, and I don't think I'll be using it again. So just keep that in mind. Now, by all means, if this is your favorite stain, that's awesome for you. It's just not my favorite for me. I'm a Minwax type of person. It's what I've used for most of my projects before, so using a new product can just be a little frustrating, at least for me anyways. So I did like the way it covered on the legs themselves, but for the tabletop, I did not care for the coverage so much by rubbing it on by a rag. Now I know you can rub on stain with a rag or a brush. It's your preference what you like to use. They told me I could use either or, so I did what I normally do, a rag. You can see here which glove worked and which glove needs to be replaced. This is the coverage after one coat. It was a little streaky for me, so I didn't really care for that so much. And then I was thinking, well, maybe instead of staining the legs because it was really dark, I thought I would go in with the Waverly chalk paint here and see if I could do like a whitewash on the stain. And I didn't like it. It would go for most people, but for me, it just wasn't bright enough. So I decided to just go all in and take my Waverly white paint and thin it out a little bit with some water and paint the legs white. I know you're probably thinking, you just stained them. I know. I changed my mind a lot, but in the end, I think I'm going to be really happy with them being white. I just feel like it stands out a little bit more, and it's more of the look I was kind of going for to begin with. So here I was testing out to see if I liked just the legs white, but in the end, I wanted to make the base of the table, that thin 4-inch strip around it, white as well. I thought it would make it stand out a little bit better, and it totally did. One thing that I like about chalk paint is that it dries super fast. So once the legs were dry, I went in with 220 sandpaper, sanded down all of the imperfections and any unevenness in the paint, and then I went back in with my tacky cloth to remove any of the excess paint dust, and then I applied my second coat. So I decided to add a second coat of stain, but instead of rubbing it on, using a sponge brush instead to get some more even strokes in there. So I did some short strokes just to apply it firstly to the table, and then I did my long even strokes all the way down. Then I wrung out that sponge as much as I could and then wiped off the excess. I didn't want to use a towel again because I'm trying to avoid those streakiness that the first layer had. So once that dried, I used this new product, which is Minwax's One Coat Polyurethane. Normally I like Varathane's triple thick, but I couldn't find any at the store and I was all out of my other cans. So I'm giving this a try. I did some short even strokes here as you're seeing, and then once I got it fully covered, I went back in with long even strokes, because whatever ridges you see, that is the way it will dry. So you want to make sure you get out all the bubbles, which it didn't really bubble on me using the foam brush, so I was happy with the application. And don't worry about the whiteness here, it dries completely clear just like the Varathane does. Once that had cured for almost a day, then I went in with my 220 grit sandpaper just to get out any unevenness and everything. And again, don't worry about the white dust. You can simply wipe that away, which is definitely what I recommend doing. Wiping it down with a cloth, then go back in with your tacky cloth. And then I went ahead and applied a second coat to the table. Now I did do a little experiment here. I actually thought it was polyacrylic, not polyurethane, which actually tends to yellow, and it definitely yellowed the white on my tables. So keep that in mind. I would not recommend applying it to your white. Just leave it raw or use a wax. So for the next project, before I show you the finished table, will be this other trash to treasure. And we are literally using trash here. I'm using an old Bisquick box, some scissors, rope, material, Mod Podge, and a glue gun and a sponge brush. So I'm just going to cut my box to the desired height that I would like it to be. And this DIY, you can actually get 2 boxes out of 1 box, if that makes any sense. You can just close up the other end. So once you have the box completely cut out, then just go ahead and lay your material down and then cut that out for it to fit around your box. You want to leave a little excess on the outside and on the inside of it. That way it can overlap on the bottom and the inside, if that makes any sense. Next, take your Mod Podge and spread that all the way around the box. I did 2 sides at a time here, that way I wouldn't do too much and not be able to move it. Make sure your stripes are working the same direction, and for a box like this, you could paint it first if you're going to be using white fabric, but with a print fabric like I have, it worked just fine. The print actually covered up the box picture just fine. I went ahead and glued on the bottom pieces, and then I just used Mod Podge on the inside of the box, and you don't have to worry, nobody's going to be peeking in there, so if your lines aren't perfectly straight, it's okay. And then you can use some hot glue wherever it is necessary. Now I'm going in with my Dollar Tree twine here, and I'm just gluing that down to the edge of the box, and I'm going to go all the way around the top perimeter with it. You can go all the way around the bottom perimeter if you would like to as well. This is where you can customize your box however you want it to look. That's the joy is about doing DIYs. You do whatever works best for you and your decor style. One way may not work for everybody. So for the very ends, I just add a little bit of glue in there, that way it doesn't fray. Then I decided I wanted to have a little bit more interest, so I glued on just to the outside edges. And then again, when you cut off the bottom, just add a little bit of glue in there, that way the twine does not fall apart on you. This rope you can get 9 to 13 feet at the dollar store for $1, so it's really inexpensive, or you can find it at the hardware store. It's completely up to you. The next step is to find the florals that you want for your box. Now I decided to do greenery and whites together because I think it's just really fresh, and I don't know, like this house that we're in now, I feel like it calls for just some crisp florals in it, and so for me that's whites and greens. And so I'm just interlacing a few different together, like a hydrangea, some Target dollar spot greenery, and then the light baby's breath is from Michael's a few years ago, and then I'm adding in, I don't know what these things are called, but they're really pretty. So this is the way the table came together. I think it looks really nice. The stain color is a little bit darker than what's on my cabinets, but overall I'm really pleased with the way this came together. I only spent $25 on the table and then plus the supplies to stain it, but I love the way the green is showing through and just the overall look of the table. And here it is all styled together with the other trash to treasures I have done. And the thing I like about this is that the tray is actually a trash treasure I did about a month ago, so I'll leave that video link down below if you haven't seen it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's projects. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, and of course if you decide to make any of these, make sure you tag me on Instagram so I can repost it in my stories. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.
I got this feeling like it's starting now.